Inside, my brother and I, we decided, you know what, we need to win these infidels to Islam. I didn't even much believe in Islam, but I was so desperate to try anything, something. I went inside the church, I sat in the back right pew, and I remember Steve there on the platform singing, and streams of tears rolling down his face, and there were grandmamas praying in the front, and there were people lifting their hands, and suddenly I'm being attracted to the infidel side of my story, and now they're just happy and tears. Lord, what is going on? So I went downstairs, I found a room that faced towards the east, and I put down a mock cardboard, and I began to pray Islamically in a church. Remember?
So today we are talking about this man who was a Muslim and wanted to convert his friends who were Christians. He was a Muslim, and remember, according to the Muslims, if you do not believe according to the pillars of the Islam, you are an infidel, and that means that they really don't want anything to do with you. In some Muslim countries, they can even murder you for that, those who are radical Muslims. So this man was invited to church by these friends, and this was the beginning of his life-changing journey to knowing Christ. Now, we want you to listen to this testimony, and hopefully it will also inspire you to tell others about Christ.
See, I was taught things like a tribal Islamic culture teaches, that apostasy is worthy of death and infidels are worthy of murder. That's the things that I was taught. Why? Because there is no such thing in Islam as a greater sin than disbelief. The concept of grace does not exist within Islam. So who are you, Hazm Faraj, to question our Prophet? You see, for a Muslim to convert to Christianity doesn't happen overnight, literally. For me, it was a 3-year process. It wasn't a book, it wasn't a Bible, it wasn't a sermon, it wasn't anything. It was just simple, pure, undefiled, unconditional love. For me, I didn't want to change religions. I did not want to reach the bottom of my checklist and feel empty on the inside. My brother and I, we decided, you know what, we need to win these infidels to Islam. I didn't even much believe in Islam, but I was so desperate to try anything, something. If these guys who are happy and they're awesome decide to come to Islam, maybe, just maybe, there's something to it. For me, this is why I would get upset, is because, you know, some of the things that they said to me were either just outrageous fantasies or they were true. And so I remember going upstairs and I said to Eileen, I said, Eileen, I quoted her the script, the Quran. I quoted her verses from the Quran. And she said, Hazm, are you done? Because I'd like to speak too. Will you listen to me? I said, absolutely. You've listened to all of what I had to say. I will listen to you. But here was the difference. The difference was I was reading from a piece of paper and from what the Imam told me, whereas she started to tell me stories. Everyone say stories. She started to tell me stories of how Jesus raised up her brother, literally, raised up her brother from his deathbed because he got hit and run, a car hit him and ran. And a man by the name of Oral Roberts lays hands on him and prays with him in the name of Jesus. And this pretty much dead boy raises up. And they told me moments where the Lord had actually fed them when they were hungry. They said, Hazm, there was a bill I had. I don't even remember the number, but it was outrageous. And she gets a check in the mail for that same Hazm. Jesus fed me when I was hungry, and He paid my bills when I had no money to pay them, and He healed me when I was hurting. And they had stories after stories. And what did Hazm have? Hazm had echoes of what the Imams said. The missionary said to me, Hazm, you're welcome to go with us to church. This was at the end of the 3-year crisis. They said, Hazm, we're going to go, and you're welcome to go. You don't have to go into the church. We won't be offended. So I began to stand outside, and I saw more people coming in. And here's the difference now. Now there's more happy people. And you know, by the way, it sounds really just non-spiritual to say they were happy, but that's really the most spiritual thing you can do, is to be at peace inside when the world is crumbling around you. That's when people will know that you are following the Lord. I went inside the church, I sat in the back right pew, and I remember Steve there on the platform singing, and streams of tears rolling down his face, and there were grandmamas praying in the front, and there were people lifting their hands, and suddenly these happy people were now not hearing echoes. at the end of their spiritual checklist. I'm sitting in that pew, and I'm getting agitated because not only am I having a crisis, now the story seemed skewed. I'm being attracted to the infidel side of my story, and now they're just happy and tears. Lord, what is going on? So I went downstairs, I found a room that faced towards the east, and I put down a mock cardboard, and I began to pray Islamically in a church. I remember that prayer. I remember it was hard. It was my last prayer as a Muslim. And it was my prayer looking up to heaven. I was on my knees, and I looked up to heaven, and I said, oh God, I pray, oh God, I pray that what they said was true. I pray that Muhammad was not a false teacher or a false prophet. Oh God, I pray that the Quran is true and that you are who they said you were. Something rose up in me, and I began to get, right, like, you ever got angry at God? But that's faith. This is the walk of faith. And I remember I went up, I looked back up, and I said, oh, but how cruel of you. How cruel of you to leave me hanging for 3 years in this crisis and no one to talk to, and God, where are you? And it was in that moment I thought, you know what? I've been making excuses. I've been doing the job of God, and this is on this day, Lord, whoever you are, I'm up for grabs. I said that. I said, I'm up for grabs. And I pray that you are the God of the Quran who grabs me. Because if you're not, if Jesus is the one on that throne, I'm about to find him. And I got up off of that prayer mat, and I went back to the same pew, and I watched. This time, for the first time that I can remember, actually celebrating the Christian's spiritual checklist. Oh, it was amazing. Oh, it was something I had never experienced before. Suddenly God, who was this ethereal myth in the heavenly somewhere, now becomes in front of you, standing there, whispering to your soul that, hey, you are not alone and I love you. I don't know what they said to you. I don't know who lied to you, but the truth is you are loved. I remember thinking 99 names of Allah, not one of them is love. From being loved not to being so loved that he gave his only begotten son. Oh, come on somebody. See, I gave my heart to the Lord in that tender age. For me, the biggest issue facing me was Islam. I could not live that way. I simply wanted the freedom to live for Christ. It was my personal Gethsemane moment when I had to make that final decision to follow God no matter what the cost. You say, Hazm, stop being so dramatic. What's the big deal? Here's the big deal. What if on some dark night someone decided to carry the Quran's dreaded command against ex-Muslims? If they forsake you, Muhammad said, pursue them and kill them where you find them. For an ex-Muslim, Jesus' words, there will come a day when those who will kill you will think they are doing God a service. Those words of Jesus are tangible and they are real to me. They are the mirror reflection of the Quran's oftenly repeated admonitions of how to deal with infidels, and more importantly, apostates. You do it the way they did it in Revelations 12. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimonies. And they loved not their lives even unto death. I'll tell you what that means. That means you get covered by the blood and you continue to tell the story. And the part that says that they loved not their lives unto death, that doesn't mean they had a martyr's complex. It means they simply loved Jesus a whole lot more than they loved living. Why? Because persecution is a part of our walk. Now it may look different. It may look different for us in the Middle East and you right here in America. We can overcome the enemy through our testimony and through the blood. Amen? Amen.
Now listen to this testimony of a guy called Nabil. He accepted Christ, but however, he paid it by losing everyone, family, friends. And we are told in the Bible, you'll have to deny family, friends in order to follow Christ. And that's what happened to him. And this shows you how hard it is for them when they accept Christ.
The reason I didn't accept it was because of subconscious factors. There was a lot I would have to give up if I were to become a Christian. I didn't realize this. This wasn't at the tip of my head. But there was a lot I was going to have to give up. I mean, the biggest one, right? Chapter 5, verse 72 of the Quran makes it very clear. If you believe Jesus is God, you are going to hell. Chapter 5, verse 72 of the Quran is classified as the only unforgivable sin, shirk. believing someone other than Allah is God, and the example that's given there is Jesus. So if I'm wrong about this, I'm going to hell forever. That didn't quite bother me as much as the other two, though. The next one was Muslims, if they leave their Islamic faith, even here in the United States, they are often killed for it. Now, around the world, definitely, all four schools of Sunni thought believe in the law of apostasy, Sunni being one of the major divisions of Islam. All three schools of Shia thought believe in the law of apostasy. Under certain circumstances, you can be killed for leaving your faith. But even here, that very year, 2004, a family in New Jersey was stabbed to death because they accepted Christ and left Islam. But the biggest issue for me was that if I, as the only son in my family, accepted Christ, my family would feel like I had stabbed them in the heart. I mean, my mom and my dad, who loved me so much, who cared for me, who raised me, who gave up everything for me, would feel like I was attacking them. You have to understand, Islam for Muslims is more than just a set of beliefs, it's their identity. And our parents were not just followers of Islam, they lived Islam. Islam was their life, as it was mine. And to leave it would be like betrayal. This doesn't make any sense to the Muslim mind. It took me a long, long time to grasp it. It made no sense. Because I couldn't envision God leaving His throne. God is up there in heaven somewhere being worshipped by angels, surrounded by light and love and bliss, and that's where God is. Why in the world would He come here? He never would come here. He's too majestic for that. But the Christian message tells us that God did not consider His majesty something to grasp, something to hold on to. This is Philippians 2. He did not consider His place, His status, greater than His love for us. Are you telling me that the one who created the expanse of the universe, you guys live in Colorado, you can look up in the sky, you can see the stars bright as day at nighttime, and they're gorgeous, and there are billions of stars out there. You're telling me that the God who made and placed every single one of those in the sky, who knows exactly how long they're going to be there, exactly how long they have been there, exactly how bright their light is, exactly how hot they burn, the God who knows all of those, every single star ever made, from the beginning of the universe till the end, He knows all of them, He placed them there as easily as by thinking about it. That God knew me and created me exactly the way He made me for a reason. And He knew that I would rebel against Him, and yet He entered into this world, into this dirty, filthy, sinful world. Why? That kind of love makes no sense. And then when He came, did He come as a king? Did He come as a prince? Did He come with all kinds of riches? No, He came and was born to two kids in a manger and grew up as a carpenter, working with His hands, serving other people, living and becoming friends with fishermen, people who couldn't even make it through school. And those people who He poured Himself into turned around and betrayed Him, one of them with a kiss, so that He would have to go to His death. And what kind of death? You're telling me that our God was willing to suffer death on a cross? What is death on a cross? Is that bad? Yeah. They had invented the most humiliating, painful way to kill someone at exactly the moment in history where God says, yes, that death is still worth it. When they whip you before putting you on the cross, they had determined exactly how to do it so that medically you would be in your most vulnerable state. They took a cat o' nine tails is what it was called, a Roman whip, and they put little leather balls at the end of them, and they'd put metal dumbbells and shards of bone on these leather balls, so that when they hit your skin, the metal dumbbells would cause your blood vessels to vasodilate, bringing more blood to the surface of your skin, so that when the bones would latch into your skin and rip your skin off, you would bleed profusely, and you'd lose all energy. And they do that across your entire body. So that by the time you get to the cross, you have no energy left when they drive nails through your nerves and destroy your hands. and your feet. And every time you have to breathe one of your last rattling breaths on the cross, you have to scrape a back that is devoid of skin up and down splintered wood for each breath. God did that? He loves us that much? It's incomprehensible. But we know it's true. We know it's true. The resurrection happened. Jesus claimed to be God, then he died on the cross, and he proved it by rising from the dead. God died on the cross. That God who made the universe suffered that death because he loves us that much. That is the Christian message. That is worth believing. Now, if you ask me, Nabil, you had a perfect life. You had a family that loves you. You were becoming a doctor. You had a good place in society. Everything was great for you. Was it worth it? Absolutely, it was worth it. I would do it 100 times over again. Today, my mom and dad didn't come to my wedding. Every single time I see a video of a son dancing with his mother at his wedding, I have to think that it was worth it. Every time I see parents lovingly hug their children and say, "We're proud of you," I have to think it was worth it. Because it was worth it. And if I have to die the same kind of death that Christ died in order to proclaim this message of hope to other people who are here, that would be the greatest honor I could ever have.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and comment. We'll see you next time for another video, and God bless you.